I'd like to call this meeting to order on November 10th, 2025 at 5:31 p.m. First line, let's go with public participation. I think, Ann, you had someone waiting online on the phone.
Yes, I have Mr. Ron Polini. You can go ahead, sir. They're listening.
Hello, we're on speaker?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The reason why I wanted to be there is to, hello? I just heard a click.
Nope, you're here. You're talking.
Okay. All right. I heard another click. Are you all right?
You're all good.
All right, because I hear clicks and I lose people. So on the phone, I was just wondering if you're still there. But I hate to talk into a telephone and nobody's listening.
We're all, everyone's listening.
No, I understand you. I'm just saying, because the phone went blank and then I'm talking to nobody. But anyway, here we go. I wanted to know why if you build a swimming pool. Look, I can't look at the paper. I just told. What is it? 276. Oh, okay. Difference? Well, I was asking my son how the difference in the water bill was from the previous ones.
Anyways, $200 more.
$200 more for 3 months?
Yes.
And this last one was $150 more?
No. Last was 276. This was 458. $200 difference.
Both times?
From last quarter to this quarter.
Yeah, and then the one before that
was I think $150.
Okay. He said from the last 6 months because he took over 6 months ago, and he said it was a difference of 150 for the first time, over and above the amount that's normally, and then this time from the last 3 months, it's $200 more than the previous bill. So that's what the average more it's increased. My own personal, I have a building for family, and that went up $400 more a quarter. Kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. I just wanted to state that fact. I didn't know that information until just recently. I got the bill that's due at the end of the week. In the meanwhile, I don't know who's on the phone listening, but the main reason why I was asking for the meeting, when the meeting was going to be held, is because I wanted to bring up there was a year ago when we had a topping of the swimming pool, and there was about a $600 bill versus a normally $300 bill. It was like double. And they said it was because of topping the swimming pool, and I was saying, then why would I begin $300 more, where the water would be going into the pool, but not going in any sewer. And here you're charging for storage versus the water itself. And I think that for everybody that owns a swimming pool, and if that's happening, I think it's very unfair to charge for storage when the water disappears and goes to heaven, just so to speak. Anyway, you shouldn't be charging for something that you people aren't producing to take and charge for. Whatever you can do is fine, but let's be fair. It's high enough as it is, and now it's even going higher. That's probably one of the reasons why it's going higher, when things should be coming down, if anything, because hopefully things will be changing in the near future. That's what I'm hoping. But anyway, I'm just speaking on as far as capping the pool off and being fair to the people that own swimming pools that you guys have been taking advantage of by charging them for storage where there's no drain. Okay? So my theory, I understand through, I believe it was Ann that mentioned the fact that people were talking about getting a separate meter. And I think that would be kind of expensive to install a separate meter for a situation like this for outside, unless it was completely for outside, like lawns and capping off the swimming pool, because there is no storage when it comes to that. You know what I mean? So then I could understand a separate meter if a person is using all those devices. But in my case, it would just be the swimming pool. I don't water but a little lawn in the front, which is nothing. But the thing is, the capping off of the swimming pool, I think in our case, I was making a suggestion is to take a reading before you cap off the pool and then a reading after you finish. And then for the difference, you guys, we report it, and then you could figure out how you can discount the fact of the storage, which probably be a little something, but at least it'll be something and it'll show the fairness of the sewer and water company, the water and sewage company. Now do you understand what I'm saying? So if everybody's listening, that's my that's my situation that I'm calling about. Now, if I'd like to hear something in return, if you have now, or Ann could give me the notice of what you guys figure out that you're going to do about this fairness.
I can jump in if you want. My name is Shane McCarthy. I'm on the a board here as well. So I hear you, and just so you know, you're represented here as well. So I want to let you know it's certainly something we're going to be taking a look at. And I'm happy to share my personal numbers as well, because I'm very similar to you. I do have a sprinkler system, as the board knows. So my water bill's typically $400 to $500 a quarter, and then over the summer I paid $2,500 for the summer quarter. So I hear you loud and clear. I think what the challenge is with the town is they have the revenue now, right? So if the town were to lose that money, I think that's the challenge we have to work with, is how is the town going to make that up, right? We can't just take thousands of dollars away without trying to figure out where it's going to go. And it is something we have to work to be fair. But I do want to let you know I hear you, right? And I'm absolutely in the same boat as you. And just let you know that, that's certainly something we'll be taking a look at.
Well, don't you think it would be fair to not charge for something that you're not using? Wouldn't you like, no matter where you went for anything, for somebody to charge you for something that you're not using, just because they feel like, oh, it should be across the board for everybody? I don't think that that's very fair.
Yeah. No, I hear
A
you.
lot of people have swimming pools in this case, but no matter where you go, if anything is being charged, I know you. I don't really know you, but I know you as a human being wouldn't like to pay for something that you're not getting charged for or using.
Correct, right? And that's what I'm telling you. I am, right. So I'm in the same boat in that, I'm watering the grass. It's not going into the storage, but I am paying for it. So again, we're going to try and figure something out that's fair and equitable for everybody. So I just want you to know that you are represented on this board, right? Because I absolutely see where you're coming from.
Well, I just made a couple of suggestions. If somebody had lawns that they were doing constantly, if you had a little dinky lawn, that was one thing, you know what I mean? But if you had, several lawns where a lot of people get some nice lawns, and they get sprinkler systems, and they automatically come on, so naturally they're automatically using the water. One thing is the charge for the water. The other thing is for the storage, which is not happening. So whatever I don't know how you figure out between use and storage. If you must have a way of a formula for that situation, well, just cut the storage part out. For if you're going to install a separate meter for people that have a constantly use, that they're not using the storage, okay, maybe you just want to do something in that effect. But in my case, I would only need to, in all fairness, is to take a reading before we fill up the pool, and then take a reading thereafter. And the difference of us watering our little dinky lawn, no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Then it would be at least something that we were getting in return for something that we weren't using. You completely understand what I'm saying, don't you? Hello?
So, yeah, no, we can hear you. Yep. And I can see where you're coming. I think that's why we have to look at all of the scenarios, regarding the water and the sewer and additional meters and see what comes into play so we can figure out something that's fair for everybody.
And I would
Yeah,
like to
that's
add
what
too, I
that's
believe,
all
I
we
believe,
can expect. Somebody that's trying to figure something out that's fair for everybody.
yeah,
It's
this
not
is
just
Chris
me.
Tarr speak. This is Chris Tarr speaking, the chair. We're going to be reviewing our abatement policies in the near future here. So this is going to be coming up as it is. So we heard what you had to say about it, and we'll certainly have that discussion in the near future too. So be on the lookout for another meeting. I'm sure maybe Ann could keep you in touch or touch back
Well,
with
Ann will
Ann.
keep in touch with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But the other thing I was curious why having you on the phone is, why is such a drama of increase? Like in my apartment building, $400 more a quarter.
The MWRA, unfortunately, has us by hostage. They hold us hostage. They control that. They control the rates. We can only do so much as a board to, keep the rates down. But at the end of the day, you have to have an operational budget too. The MWRA, I totally agree with you. The price gouging is insane. I couldn't agree with you more. But it's not the Wakefield DPW that's doing it. Do we lose them?
It looks like Ann's muted now, so maybe we can't hear him if he's talking.
Yeah.
You're still muted.
First place. So I have to go and ask them for the money. I'm not using the water, they are. But see, they're using practically, I've had the place for 5 years. It's running gradually up, and then it made a spike up. Okay, and then it made another spike up. And now it's went $400. So it's been ridiculous. But years ago, several years ago, when I first got the place, for 3 years, it was just maybe $100 more a quarter. That's no big deal. But when you jump $300 and $400 every year, that's a lot of money because I ain't paying it. I have to raise the rent. I mean, I have a hard time doing that to people. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't like it if I was renting, but in the meanwhile, these people, they're not the rich. I know you have to be kind of rich to live here in Wakefield. But the thing is, in all fairness, how much can people pay for rent? And their paycheck is increasing along with the other expenses. You follow what I'm saying? I
think-
feel bad for these people. These are nice people. I have the same people as I have when I bought the place. They're great people. You know what I'm saying?
I think this is Elena. I'm on the board as well. And our committee's worked really hard to keep our total rate increases to a minimum, like, between say 3 and 5% each year, for the total between water and sewer. I think we've pretty much been in that vicinity every year. So if you're seeing big jumps, then your consumption must have also been going up. maybe not just from the pool, but maybe from other usage
No,
and
no, I know, well, the pool is from the single family house. I was talking about the multiple family.
yeah,
place.
so in the
Those
multifamily
people,
house,
there's only 2 people living in each apartment.
right,
How
so,
much, and they basically, they've been with me for 5, 6 years that I took over the place. And they're using basically the same. They're not watering the lawn or whatever
so
have you not.
we
You know,
haven't raised rates
we
though.
don't have a swimming pool there.
Yeah, we
You
haven't
know?
raised rates more than a small percentage each year. So if you're getting a big jump, a big spike in the bills, you should probably work with Ann, see if maybe you have any leaks or, toilet
No,
leaks.
I already went through all that because there was a little bit, they gave me pills to put in the bathroom. And we did follow up with one bathroom had a leak, and we found out it was a cracked pipe underneath the toilet. And that had to be replaced and everything else. So they did give me a credit. Okay. So I'm not complaining about that. They give me a credit for the expense of the to repairs and everything. Okay. But I had to show them bills of buying the stuff. I had to show them bills for people that repaired it. And I got people that were family that repaired it for hardly nothing, to keep expenses down. But in the meanwhile, if we just have a plumber today, what do they charge? $150 an hour. You know what I mean? And our family would only charge like maybe $50 an hour and less sometimes, just to keep the place going right. But meanwhile, that's the only thing I found in 5 years as far as the water was concerned. And then we had the flood in the cellar because of that leak. Was an extended amount of water was used. But they did credit me back because I explained to them what happened and so forth, so on, and they finally seen what happened. So they did give me some credit back for that. But other than that, we never had any leaks or any extra, about if people want to use showers and whatever have you not, they're basically within reason about the same amount of water. So, the only time if there's something like the repair job, that they can understand why that was spiked up at that time. But that was a thing that happened over several couple of months we didn't know about. In the meanwhile, I was wondering, it shouldn't have been $400 because we didn't have any leaks at that time, or the most recent. You know what I'm saying? This was going back previous, maybe early this year or late last year. Okay, so it had nothing to do with the last quarter.
So
Now I don't
I
know
think
what's happening.
I think the folks who work at the DPW can certainly help you out with figuring out what might have increased your bill at that time. And as far as this board is concerned, we work hard to keep the rates just a small increase every year, and we'll continue to do that. And we will make sure to consider all the things that you've raised. So
Okay.
we
Did
thank
they
you for
raise
your,
the rates? Did they raise the rates at all that much? Or
no, not that much.
been
Nothing like,
equally?
no, nothing like that. Our rate increases have been, I would say, between 3 and 5% when you combine the water and the
Okay.
sewer rate increase each year. So nothing like that. So we understand your concerns, and we will definitely take them into account as we do our work as a committee.
Okay, because I don't want to raise the rent some more over and above what I raise. A little something every year. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah,
keep,
no, we don't want you to have to do
the
that.
tenants happy and keep them staying there. I hope they don't leave, But
Yeah.
they can see if they leave where they're renting off of me, you're talking $300 more a month rent, no matter
Yeah.
where they go around the same area if they had a rent. So I'm way under. See, and I would like to keep myself that way for them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of fortunate in the respect of I don't have to pay all that interest to the bank because I don't have a mortgage. That way I can save them some money because if I had a mortgage, they'd have to be paying the fair share of what's going on out there. And I'm glad that I can say that the reason why I ain't you ain't paying that money is because I don't pay all that bank money interest. You know, the interest was very high in the last few years. So that made a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
so we
hopefully things
hear
will
you.
come down and everybody will be happy again.
We thank you for your comments and we will definitely take them into consideration.
Okay, well, that's all you can do. At least I said my
Thanks.
piece. And Ann
Thanks,
is a
Ron.
wonderful lady. She's very helpful and was very responsive to me and everything else. So
Great.
I'll wait to hear from her again sometime in the near future. And she'll let me know what's going on. I thank you. What's your name?
My name is Elena.
Elena. Okay, and the other fellow that I spoke to?
So my name is Shane.
Shane and Elena. Okay, I just
And
made a
Chris.
notation
Well,
of
and-
that.
And
So I
Chris,
spoke to
Chris
them.
is our
Okay.
chair.
Chris is our chair, yep.
Okay, so you two have a blessed evening.
Thank you.
May
You
God
too.
be with you.
You as well.
Thank
You as
you.
well.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Number 3 on the agenda here, new business. Joe, I don't know if that's you. You want to take over the water treatment update?
Yes, will do. Give me 1 second.
Take your time.
Let me pull it up. Okay. Can everybody see this presentation piece in front of you? Really all this is some talking points to help us keep the conversation on track. Nothing different than anything you read in the information that we had sent out at the end of last week, but more so just organizationally. So if you can't read it or it's not formatted to what you're on, let me know and I could try to blow it up. Otherwise, we'll just kind of go through it informally. So questions, feel free to stop us. You don't need to wait to the end if something has something on their mind, but they don't want to lose. We'll go from there. So
Joe, I
The
was just gonna say
slideshow view.
right, you might have said the same thing, Elaine, as well. So we can see it, but it's just not in exactly right. We just can't. You have to put it in presentation mode.
You can just click from beginning and it'll go right in.
let's see.
There you go.
There it is.
That's better. Now we can see it a little clearer.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, when I did that earlier, I lost you guys, so I think we're good. Yeah, so like I said, this is a topic supplementing some of the information you guys got. Something that we've kind of dipped our toes in the water on before, especially over the last couple of years. The only difference being at this point in time, we're essentially at a crossroads, and looking for some insight and maybe reassurances that we could pursue a couple of different options when we get to the end of this. Excuse me. So you got me, obviously, Bill Renault, town engineers with us too, and then also on the call is Steve Fitzpatrick. He is our primary treatment operator, so he is the body inside the plant that is doing basically all of our production, all of our testing, all the technical stuff on the chemistry side, reporting and things like that. So between the three of us, we bring a little bit of insight on everything. And then you too, Elena, feel free to jump in. I know this is something that you know as in depth as anybody. So without further ado, we'll kind of walk through it and see where we land at the end. But so the subject matter in front of us, obviously PFAS. We've talked about it a bunch of times to this point in all of our business here. Your forever chemicals, right? Essentially man-made, breakdown resistant manufactured chemicals that have been out there, since the 40s. The list is probably shorter in industries that they actually aren't used in, but historically, just for context, and somebody out there that may not know, typically these compounds are used in waterproofing, food packaging, the anti-stick, industrial uses like lubricants, greases, coatings, heat resistance, and we'll get a little bit into this later, but some of the places where these chemicals now outside of the commercial uses that they're used in. They're also being detected in our food, soils, landfills, water bodies, wastewater, and drinking water resources, which is the crux of the issue that we'll get into. So why are we talking about this? As I mentioned, PFAS, I can explain or try to pronounce the name of it, but I will butcher it, PFAS for short. Essentially, so the EPA has published information over the last couple of years, especially highlighting that exposure to these man-made chemicals, can cause some negative health effects. With that, the exposure-linked concerns have prompted regulatory action at the federal level and the state level, and because of that narrowing of their focus, that is something that their actions are going to dictate changes to the town of Wakefield on how we treat water. Right now, the way that our treatment plan is set up, it is not set up to remove or treat for PFAS chemicals. So just a quick snapshot for those of you that don't know. So 2020, pretty critical year. That was a big change for the state where Mass DEP essentially took a federal regulation, which is written where compliance levels needed to test below a threshold of something that they call 70 parts per trillion in their samples. And Massachusetts, being Massachusetts, adopted even more stricter regulations and cut that by over half, and said that anybody that produces water in Massachusetts need to meet a compliance threshold of tests that demonstrate results less than 20 parts per trillion. To put that in perspective, what we're talking about here, so 1 part per trillion in the little graphic here is essentially 1 drop of water in the volume of 20 Olympic-size swimming pools. So you can tell a little bit of the seriousness that they have with this. Imagine 1 drop of water in 1 Olympic-sized swimming pool is a pretty small amount. Compare that over 20, and you'll see to the level of detail that they're going with this. So what has changed? So since 2020, we had an update to this from the EPA at the federal level in 2024. And essentially, what they've done is they have adopted some things that have been getting talked about for some time, and they've established new federally enforceable regulatory levels for these PFAS chemicals. And we'll use the term MCL, maximum contaminant level. Basically, it's the maximum amount you can have in this before you find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. Particularly, and what will end up impacting Wakefield one way or another the most, 2 of these specific compounds. There's thousands of them. There are 6 originally that have been initially focused on. And now with this regulation change in 2024, they picked 2 out that are particularly more harmful, or whatever they're seeing in their testing at that level, and lowered the compliance threshold to those to not be able to exceed 4 parts per trillion. And those you'll hear us as we get into the conversation, we'll refer to them as PFOA and PFOS. This new regulatory change has a 2029 deadline for compliance. And the part of this that we do not know yet is that there is a state component to it, to which the EPA has mandated that the states have to adopt at least what the federal government has, if not more stringent, but it cannot be anything less. So we're expecting another wrinkle of this to come down soon as well, to which of that, it's all speculative at this point. So knowing this, and that this change is going to affect us and that we would have to meet new testing thresholds, we kind of took a look at all of the historic testing that we've been doing here and figured out, how have we stacked up historically versus this 2029 compliance deadline that we're going to have to meet. And as you can see, we've done some comparative monitoring, especially of PFOA and PFOS. One of the things that we found out was that historically, our tests for PFOA and PFOS have been above the 4 parts per trillion, which will be the new goal that we'll have to meet. We went through all of our testing over the last 5 to 6 years, averaged it out, and you can see that this table I just stole from the document that you read, but it basically explains how our averages have shaken out. And then in seeing this, obviously the bold in the right-hand side of the top 2 lines told us that as we were doing this, so this is something that we're going to have to look at a little bit more in depth because we have the data to tell us that this is something that we're going to have to plan for. Under the old regulation, we've always fared pretty well. We were underneath the maximum contaminant level that we're responsible for hitting. With this change, obviously that is something that's going to be different for us, so we need to react to it. Here's just another snapshot from that test. So here's some of the different the testing results, I should say, that we've taken over the years. This is for the P4 and PFOS specifically, because these have the tighter compliance threshold that I had mentioned a few minutes ago. So I'm sure as you read, but just for anybody that may not have, so this red bar is basically the benchmark, and then all of these different dots are our testing results and compared to that. So you could see that there's a good amount of this graph that comes in high, of that new threshold that we're going to have to meet. So step 2, obviously we see the data that says we're going to have to do something. What are we going to do? So you remember someone we call Environmental Partners Group. They have since been renamed to Apex. We brought them in between myself, Bill, and Stephen mostly to take a peek at this scenario and help us go through some of the options that we had. We'll bring them in on things that are a little bit out of the ordinary, whether it be designing the standpipe or something that's technical like this, because we don't build treatment plants every day. Some of the things that we were trying to accomplish is if we can even potentially do treatment on site where we are. Some conceptual design work, what our permitting needs will be, and then exploratory scope development to see what does a construction project look like this need to look like to be able to accomplish the goals here. And then also some opinions of probable cost benefit analysis. We also used Apex to help us and explore to see if there are any other options for us. Whether we could use anything else advantageous to us to keep our supply of water. And then finally, one of the alternatives we looked at was the potential of decommissioning the treatment plant on site on Broadway. So by the time we got to the whole, the end of everything that we've looked at, as you had read previous, we essentially came to the fork in the road where we really have 2 paths. And decision needs to be made whether or not we go left or we go right here. The first option, we'll call it option 1. Our testing results and data has basically told us that if we are to continue treating, that we would need to treat for PFAS now to maintain regulatory compliance. So option 1, the water enterprise issues bonds, essentially borrowings, and we perform the required design and construction of treatment plant upgrades on site. That way we can then begin the process of treating for these PFAS compounds here in Wakefield. Some of the benefits, not all of them, just a couple of highlights. Pending, the pilot studies and the permits that are going to need to be done before anybody does this, it does appear that we can fit the on-site infrastructure that we'll need on our 108 Broadway site to be able to do this. And then the benefit of it is we maintain our ability to treat local water and supplement to what we get from MWRA. Some of the drawbacks to this approach, for a host of reasons, our yield every year that we get out of the lake is relatively low comparatively. It fluctuates pretty much on average between 10 and 11% of our total demand. If you take a look at what we're permitted to actually withdraw under the complete ideal scenario, that would represent about 23% of our demand level now. So no matter how you slice it, with what we're permitted for the lake, the most that we're going to be able to get out of that at this point in time without some sort of other changes, about 23% of what the town uses during the year. Secondarily, the drawback to this, the capital equipment that we would need for this type of project would treat only PFAS. So you'll hear us talk, or you have heard us talk about things like iron and manganese that seasonally will spike in the lake levels, and our treatment processes will be dictated a little bit differently depending on what's going on there. That will not, any project that we talk about during this conversation today will not treat anything like that. It will be acutely only to the PFAS topic. And then obviously the dollar investment for the capital construction required. So we're talking about the potential of a multi-million-dollar capital project here. And then one of the things that we will not know completely, so we provided a range in the report that you saw, is depending on the concentrations of these chemicals may influence our operational costs. Some of the other things, that may be influenced operationally outside of the media that we'll need to actually, perform treatment, what that will do as far as the utility demand for electricity and things like that. And then any other requirements that may come down through some of the permitting process for such a bear of a project like conducting the construction of one of these plants. Option 2, pursue decommissioning, which would then ultimately result in us becoming a full MWRA water customer. Some of the highlights to this one, some of our due diligence here in vetting out all of these different options. So on option 1, we went heavy into seeing if the design could fit. In option 2, we had to go and see and at least start the conversations and kick the tires with the regulatory agencies to say, is this even possible from your standpoint? What we were pleasantly informed is that being a member of MDC, which ended up becoming MWRA, we do not have to go through something called the Interbasin Transfer Act. Really, in layman's terms, it's a bunch of political processes that involve the state legislature to allow the change to be made. We do not have to do that. We simply would have to inform MWRA that this is the decision that we made for said reasons. MWRA had indicated, at least in our initial meetings with them, that their supply is accurate and their hydraulic grade line could support this. And then obviously the other major stakeholder in this is the DEP, who we were able to speak with, and they did not provide any comments where they were unopposed to the potential of this. So the investment, sorry, my light just went off. The investment for decommissioning would be greatly reduced as compared to option 1. What that investment would involve, likely there would have to be some sort of physical separation. So we'd have to disconnect how our plant is connected into the distribution system. And then there may be a host of other, couple little things that we'll have to do to be able to accomplish that. From the capital budgeting and the operational budgeting perspective, so if we're not treating water, this is a consideration annually that we would not have to take into consideration. So we would shift our focus to be solely based on distribution, providing service. Interesting thing to note, so our supply designation will not go away. And we can talk about that in a little bit, but essentially Crystal Lake, will not become a boating activity area or things like that. It'll become something like an inactive source or an emergency source. The town would have provisions there, that should there be some sort of emergency or things like that, that temporary water production, can be done if, God forbid that it would need to be. Just the last two on this end, as far as the MWRA is concerned, so we're connected there into 3 different connections, one up on Prospect Street, Albion Street, and then one down in Greenwood. And then, it's Elena, very well, monitoring levels for PFAS from the MWRA supply is considered non-detect. So they do not see levels of this that can be detected yet with the available equipment and technology that's out there. Could that change? I'm sure over time, it might. But for now, I would hedge to bet that anywhere in the country, you probably have sitting here in the MWRA one of the best water supplies there, especially related to this topic. Drawbacks to option 2 or potential avenue 2. Obviously, if we're not treating it, we would have to purchase more water to meet our overall demand. What that looks like is roughly 76 million gallons a year annually. And then before you would take into consideration any, budgetary items related to treatment that would no longer be needed, you could expect the annual cost to be somewhere in the range of $300,000 to $400,000 to bridge that gap, give or take. This slide here, another thing we borrowed right from the report that you read. And essentially, it's just comparing the two in a graph. Just to explain this a little bit. So the option in yellow is tracking out, if starting next year, we were buying the difference in water that we need to meet demand from MWRA, and then projecting that out, I believe rising over about 3% average each year. As I mentioned before, operationally, one of the things we don't know completely until we would get into it is how often we need to do things like media changes and things like that. So we tried to show a range of different scenarios in this. That's why the longer bars there are different color coded. In the blue, so biennial replacement twice a year for the media changes. So that's taking, they use something called activated carbon in this. So that's taking the assumption that twice a year we'd have to change this stuff, and including the numbers to be able to buy that and restore that and dispose it. The orange number shows you what a scenario with an annual replacement would look like, and then there's biannual replacements built in with that. So at this point, we wanted to show this to you and see after digesting some of this beforehand and hearing us go through it, if anybody had any thoughts, opinions, or otherwise, or felt strongly about one option versus the other option. But as always, feel free to ask as much questions as you would need. We can revisit the slides. The floor is the board's. So with that, I'll stop talking and turn it over to you.
Any discussion?
I have some thoughts, but I didn't want to go
Go
before
ahead.
anybody else. So I'm not surprised at all by these conclusions. In fact, I think it's the direction that I've always expected eventually we would be going. I've worked in a system that was entirely independent of the MWRA and now working in a system that is entirely served by the MWRA. There are so many vulnerabilities to a local system that the MWRA just buffers. If you are worried about water supply, drought, all that, MWRA rarely, even when the whole state's in a drought condition, the Quabbin still has adequate water. PFAS is the current issue, but there are so many man-made industrial chemicals that that we're not even talking about right now. I know 25 years ago or whenever it was that I went to grad school, MTBE was all anybody was talking about. And systems had to put in, that was an additive in gasoline. Systems had to put in new treatment for that contaminant. Now it's PFAS, surely in an area that's pretty urban. Crystal Lake's in a very urban area. There's going to be something else 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You're constantly chasing whatever the next thing is that's being regulated. And I think the MWRA and the Quabbin are far more insulated from those types of issues than we could ever be with Crystal Lake. So I think now's the time. Don't pour capital into Crystal Lake. We're already, we're set up to be fully served by the MWRA, so it's not a big change. There are communities out there who have PFAS who are looking at having to do whole new connections to the MWRA, and that's still being cheaper than upgrading their own systems. So I think for Wakefield, where we're already set up for it, it's an easy decision. And like you said, Joe, the MWRA's got some of the best water in the country. So we're just getting more of a good thing.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, and I probably should have asked if Stephen or Bill had anything too, so jump in, guys, if you feel like you got something. But one of the differences that you'll hear here in Wakefield versus some other places is at least we have some options. And as Elena had just referenced, there are some places that have absolutely no options and need to do, things that I couldn't even imagine of trying to have to do here. So, we're fortunate in that regard where we have two potential avenues here, depending on, which way the town decides to go. But, there are some people out there that definitely don't have that, and I don't envy their position at all, to be frank.
No, and I do like the idea of keeping it as a backup source too. When the MWRA had that one break that they had, 15 years ago or so, we were one of the communities that still got to have water. So there's definitely a benefit to having that redundancy.
That was one of the things that DEP had mentioned, when we had the 30,000-foot conversation with them that we did, is that, they'd like to see some sort of emergency provision still remain, which makes total sense. What exactly that is, I would think some of the intake piping that comes from the lake would actually be stood up, almost like a standpipe, and then some sort of space designated that, should there be a real nightmare on the horizon, or Massachusetts is in a tough spot, that, you can get in some of these portable units to be able to use that to help offset, produce some water right there. So that's something that we still don't know exactly if that is the way that this goes, what they will want to see. That's just some of the things we have to flush out. That's why that number as far as decommissioning is a little vague, because, at the sake of being presumptuous, we didn't want to go too far down that road until we kind of knew what the general feeling was here. But
Yeah, I
Thanks,
agree
Joe.
with Elena as well. Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, to me, as I read this and we went through it, it seems very obvious to me that that is the path we should take, as well. And I guess just to kind of go back to the graph real quick, this is one thing I didn't understand though. So the two that you had there, is that the two options, or that's breaking it out separately?
no, so option 1 and 2 is just, we kind of boiled it down to, we could either, we're at a fork in the road. You can either go left,
Right.
we can go right. So there are 1,000 things that, you could come up with that are way out of the box that could you hypothetically do, or maybe. The two that are going to be actionable are the two that we described. So
But I mean,
either,
if you go back one slide with the bars, that's not high. Yeah. Next one with the graph, that's
Yep.
not highlighting option 1 and 2 there.
no, and that's a good
Right.
point. I would probably change
Okay.
that as this goes, but option one would be, somewhere in this higher region here. Depending on some of the things that happen, it's kind of a band of what the annual impact here, could potentially be.
Mhm.
Option 2, this lower one in the yellow, would be your decommissioning effort, if you're to choose to go that way. And then what that additional purchase of water, it could be expected to look like, based on the information that we have today.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great points, guys. Thanks for that. I think too, it's seems like it's pretty obvious, fiscally too, financially, that it's probably not the best decision to invest and redo everything and bring it up to code. It just seems like a lot of money to be spent on something that you're not getting much out of, that you probably could spend elsewhere down the road, I'm sure. And one thing I do want to point out too, when we do, or if we do decide to decommission the water treatment facility there too, I just want to make sure, Crystal Lake, as we know, and I think everyone would probably agree with me, it's certainly a protected wildlife, I would say, sanctuary for the town, and certainly a joy for everybody. So I want to make sure that whatever we do there, we make sure we protect that the lake as well. Even a little more now that we're not doing. There might not be as many people around the area and stuff too. I just want to make sure we protect that lake too.
Bill would probably be able to, or Elena would probably answer this better than me, but I would imagine by the time we engage DEP and tell them we're serious one way or the other, you wouldn't see any of the property we have developed or anything.
Oh, God, no.
It would be basically either what it is, or not. you know, it would be a new treatment plant, essentially. I don't think, you know, that's where we mentioned the designation of water supply. I don't think that will ever go away. I don't think it makes sense, you know. At a minimum, you want that emergency provision, so I'm
Yeah,
sure that would be something they'd advocate for pretty heavily, I would think.
Yeah, I agree that that's critical, and you know, it's sort of a side benefit of considering it's still water supply, is that you're not opening it up to recreation development and all the other things. If you keep it just as stringent as it is now as backup water supply, I think that is absolutely a benefit to the community.
Agreed.
Yep, I concur.
But better than I thought, no doubt.
Joe, do you need a vote from us to proceed
So that's
or suggest
that's a good question. So
recommendation?
intentionally, I didn't want to tell the board kind of the conclusion that when I say we, DPW got to by the time we evaluated all this and try to balance the different options. That way we didn't, you know, cloud you or influence you one way or the other. But what will happen next is this will be something, this presentation and report would go to the town council, obviously, because, you know, they are the ones that would make the ultimate decision to give us our marching orders one way or the other. And if the board felt so moved to make a vote and recommendation, we would include that as part of that informational packet to say that, you know, this board had the chance to review it. You know, we've been talking about it for a little while. Based on the information that we discussed in this discussion today, you know, option one, option two is the most advantageous option to the town, and that would be recommended. So that was a long way of saying, if you feel so moved to vote on it and recommend something, we would take that and include it, yes.
I'm prepared to make a motion, but I have a quick question. You had mentioned Bill or Steve weighing in. I'm curious, Steve, as our primary treatment plant operator,
Yep.
if you had anything to add, that might be of interest to us.
I mean, I have a bunch of facts and figures, you know, laid out here in case any questions came up. But ironically, when you spoke, you actually said two things that like reminded me of myself when this substance first came out and they started talking about it, and everybody went kind of crazy about testing it. The first thing I thought was, okay, yeah, we're going to get maybe through this, but then what is going to be next? And you know, technology only advancing, so parts per trillion is what they're testing for now. Who knows what's going to come in the future? So mitigating this issue would only be one, you know, possibly one thing in our future. And then you said capital too, so to, you know, reinvest capital that could be used on something else, you know. And I love what I do. I love this, but I think of the overall, and I think the direction that we're going right here seems to be maybe not the correct or not correct one, but maybe the smarter.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to have your input too. I know you're the one hands-on, seeing this day in and day out, so it's good to have that perspective.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that the Advisory Board of Public Works recommend to the town council, that that the town move toward being a fully MWRA served community, but maintaining all of the protections of Crystal Lake that we have now as a backup water source.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
That was really, this subject sometimes can be a bear, so we kept the agenda to this. But so now we'll take what we did today and package it up and get it to the council. I do not know when they meet next. They usually have a second meeting every month, but I don't know if the holidays will mess that up or what's on their plate. So sometime between now and their first meeting, I would say in December, you know, this will probably be back out there again. We'll get it to them ahead of time. That way, if anybody has any questions, you know, they can get as well informed as they need to be comfortable with it before we talk on it. Certainly, they don't hear it on an annual or, you know, bi-monthly basis like you folks do. And we'll see where this takes us. So
Oh, and one thing too, thanks to Steve, Bill, and Joe preparing this too. I know this, you guys certainly put some work into this.
Thank you.
Yeah, at another meeting, I could give you the whole history lesson of like how we used to use the MDC, and you know, it's funny. So this type of conversation happened. It prompted us to join the MDC because our wells were basically running out of water. We used to take MDC water and fill Crystal Lake and use it kind of as like a cistern. So, I guess historically, there might be a tortoise out there or something that's lived through the last time Wakefield had a decision like this to make, but
Wow,
we find ourselves here again.
there you go.
So, on that note, that's all we have
Quick.
for this, unless we need to get into it more, but it sounds like we don't need to, so thank you.
Oh, it's perfect. Thank you. Okay, we got some minutes I'd like to get taken care of. We got to approve as well. Let's see. Let's start with the first one. I'd like to approve the minutes for April 17th, 2025. Was there any discussion on them? I know we had some corrections.
Yeah, again, as long as they have Elena's points that she had mentioned, I'm in favor of them.
Chris, do you want us to vote separately on each one, or can we move to approve all five?
I think, well, like I was absent on one of the meetings and I think
Oh, yeah.
maybe
Okay,
was
that's a good point.
Shane. I just want to make sure. Yeah, this one's just you and I.
Just
for
you and I?
April 17th. Yes.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve those.
I second it as well. Motion carries. All in favor? Motion carries 2-0. There's that one. The next one was May 12th, 2025. Any discussion? I know the corrections were made.
And
So
all three
again,
of us?
yeah, I'm sorry, were we all in attendance on that one or?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
and I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Motion carries 3-0. Okay. And the next one was June 3rd, 2025. Everyone was present.
so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. And then September 8th, 2025, I was absent, so I'll let you two approve those.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Motion carries 2-0. And finally, September 24th, 2025, we were all present as well.
so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for, I forget, sorry, September 24th, did you say? I apologize.
Yes. Yep. I'll
September
second those as
24th,
well.
25.
Yep. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. And that is all for the minutes that we needed to do. Thank you for that.
Ann, for getting all caught up.
yes.
Next meeting. Do we have anything coming up that we need, Joe, in the near future or?
No, unless the council sends this back for us to further discuss what we just talked about. One of the things that we will talk about at our next meeting or two, we'll revisit some of the regulation things that Bill and I had covered just before the end of the summer. And that probably makes sense. We could start and take a look at the abatement policy that we had put together and see if we want to edit or make any changes to that and iron that down so that it's, out there and advertised so people know, exactly what may be considered, may not, and so on and so forth. So some housekeeping things really, unless something anticipated shows up between now and the first of the year, I would say.
Thank you. Anyone have anything else to add? Shane or Elena? Anybody?
Nothing here.
No, same here.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, see ya.
guys.